Imagine a world where one small nation controls global trade, taxes everyone, builds skyscrapers out of stone, and flexes so hard that Rome and Persia get jealous. Sounds like a video game, right? Nope, this was real life. Welcome to Axum. In the 1st century CE, a small kingdom in East Africa rose to global economic dominance by owning trade routes, crushing rivals, and stacking wealth like an ancient Jeff Bezos. But then, it vanished. One day, Axum was running the world's economy, and the next, poof, gone. What happened? Well, that's what we're here to find out. This was a time of gold-covered cities, ridiculously tall monuments, and rulers who basically invented the pay-to-play business model. But as history shows, what goes up must come down, and Axum's downfall was just as dramatic as its rise. Welcome to Infinitia, Verity, where we turn history into bite-sized, cartoonish chaos. If you love forgotten empires, ancient mysteries, and economic flexes, buckle up, because Axum is about to blow your mind. Our story begins in East Africa around the 1st century CE. While Rome was out there conquering, China was inventing paper, and Persia was being Persia. Axum was plotting to own the world's trade routes. The ancient world ran on trade. Goods like gold, spices, ivory, silk, and exotic animals moved across continents, connecting civilizations from China to Rome, India to Africa. And in the middle of all this, Axum. If you wanted to buy silk from China gold from Africa or incense from Arabia, you had to go through Axumite territory. And Axum's rulers, they weren't just letting it happen. They were making sure they got paid first. Every merchant, every ship, and every caravan had to pay a tax. It was basically the world's first trade subscription service. Enter King Azana, the guy who took one look at the world and said, "Why just trade when you can conquer?" Not only did he expand Axum's empire, but he also converted the kingdom to Christianity, making Axum one of the first Christian states in history. And fun fact, Axum had its own written language gears. While most of Europe was still scribbling in Latin, Axumites were out here engraving historical flexes on giant stone slabs. As Axum got richer, tensions rose faster than gas prices during a crisis. Other kingdoms looked at Axum's gold-filled cities and thought, why don't we have that? Axum expanded into Arabia, controlling trade between India, Rome, and Africa. They conquered the kingdom of Kush, taking control of the Nile River trade, and then King Azana said, let's make history, and converted Axum into a Christian empire. Basically, imagine a country owning Amazon, Google, and every major shipping company. That's Axum. And just like today's billionaires, they knew exactly how to keep their monopoly going. A Roman historian even called Axum one of the 4 great powers of the world. Translation: we should probably be worried about these guys. And then it happened. Axum hit its peak. It wasn't just a trade empire anymore. It was a military, economic, and cultural superpower. Think of it like the Amazon, Google, and Wall Street of the ancient world all rolled into one. If you wanted to trade, you had to go through Axum, and you had to pay. But Axum wasn't just about trade, it was about expansion. The kingdom wasn't content with owning commerce, they wanted land, power, and influence, and so they went to war. First, Axum made sure it ruled the seas. A kingdom isn't an empire until it controls something valuable, and for Axum, that something was the Red Sea trade routes. These were the ancient world's shipping highways, and Axum wasn't about to let anyone use them for free. Their navy patrolled the sea, collecting taxes from every ship. Rome, Persia, India, China, if they wanted goods to move, Axum got a cut. And if a trader tried to avoid paying, well, let's just say Axum had enough ships and warriors to make them regret that decision. In today's world, that would be like one country owning every major shipping port and making Amazon pay per package. Imagine Jeff Bezos trying to negotiate free shipping with Axum. Yeah, that wouldn't go well. Then they took the fight to land. Kush, an ancient kingdom south of Egypt, had thrived for centuries as a major trade hub. It controlled access to gold mines, precious stones, and Nile River trade. Axum saw this and thought, yeah, we'll take that. When King Ezana came to power, he launched a full-scale invasion of Kush. The Axumite army marched across the land, destroying Kushite cities and crushing their rulers. Axum's inscriptions from this time literally brag about how they burned the capital city of Meroe to the ground, and if that wasn't enough, King Ezana did something no other Axumite king had done before. He made sure the world knew about it. He wrote his victories down in 3 different languages, Ge'ez, Greek and Sabaean, because one language wasn't enough for this flex. With Kush defeated, Axum now had control over the entire Nile trade route. At this point, Axum was sitting on so much wealth it basically didn't need to farm anymore. Trade was its money machine. Then they built some of the most ridiculous monuments ever. You see, when you're rich beyond measure, you have 3 options. 1, build an army. 2, expand trade. 3, build something so big, people will still talk about it centuries later. And Axum nailed that last part. They built massive stone obelisks, some taller than 100 feet and weighing more than 500 tons. Just one of these stone towers weighed as much as 2 Boeing 747 airplanes. And here's the kicker. They carved these from a single piece of stone. How did they move them? Well, historians still don't know. Some theories include elephants dragging them on wooden sleds, an advanced pulley system, Axumites just being super strong and stubborn. No one knows for sure. But what we do know is this, that they built these monuments to show the world how powerful they were. At the same time, something big was happening culturally. While Axum was flexing on land and sea, its rulers made a radical move. They switched from worshipping old gods to becoming one of the first Christian states in history. King Ezana, after conquering Kush and expanding Axum's borders, suddenly decided to convert to Christianity. Why? Well, partly because of his connections with Byzantine Rome, which was also turning Christian, and partly because he wanted to unite his kingdom under one religion. This was huge. Christianity wasn't even fully established in Europe yet, and here was Axum officially declaring itself a Christian empire. Churches were built, coins were stamped with crosses, and the Axumites became key players in spreading Christianity in Africa. And if you're wondering, wait, does this influence still exist today? Yep, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian churches in the world, still traces its roots back to Axum. And just when you thought they couldn't get richer, by the 5th century, Axum had trading networks that reached from Africa to China. Their coins were used by merchants in India. Byzantine emperors sent ambassadors to Axum. Axumite traders sailed the Indian Ocean, exchanging gold, ivory, and spices for silk, pearls, and rare metals. And get this, Axum's influence was so strong that Roman merchants actually minted counterfeit Axumite coins just to keep up with demand. That's how valuable their money was. At this point, Axum was running the show. It had trade, military power, cultural influence, and economic strength. If this were a video game, Axum would be the final boss. So, at this point, Rome and Persia were probably sweating bullets. Imagine a Roman senator pacing back and forth like, first we had to deal with Carthage, then the Parthians, and now Axum is charging us trade fees. What's next? Are they going to take over our gold mines? And Axum was like, good idea. One Roman writer even noted that Axum was one of the 4 great powers of the world. And that's saying something, considering Rome, Persia, and China were the others. So, what was the takeaway from Axum's peak? They ruled trade. If you bought silk in Rome, gold in India, or incense in Arabia, Axum got a cut. They built massive stone monuments. They were the empire state building of their time. They became a Christian empire before most of Europe did. They flexed so hard that even Rome had to acknowledge their power. But just like all great empires, it couldn't last forever. But no empire lasts forever. By the 7th century AD, Axum started losing its grip on power. Trade routes shifted, and Axum's economy took a nosedive. What went wrong? Well, 3 major things. First, Islamic expansion cut off trade routes. As new powers rose in Arabia and the Middle East, Axum was economically isolated. Second, climate change and deforestation ruined farmlands. Over-farming led to soil erosion, and suddenly Axum couldn't grow enough food. And third, they lost control over Red Sea trade. And when you rely on taxing merchants to survive, that's a problem. By the 10th century, Axum had faded from history, but its legacy still survives. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church traces its origins to Axum's conversion to Christianity. The famous Lalibela churches, inspired by Axumite architecture. Even today, Ethiopia's currency and royal heritage trace back to Axumite kings. And there you have it, Axum, Africa's lost superpower. We started with a tiny kingdom, watched it rise to dominate world trade, and saw it vanish into history. Who knew that gold, taxes, and ridiculously large monuments could make or break an empire? If you enjoyed this history-packed roller coaster, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.